All right, hi everybody. So this video is specifically for the kids that are in beginning debate group B. That whole class right now is excluded, so I'm going to be trying to give you all the information via videos, hopefully. Fingers crossed that I can do that. And yeah, this is a learning experience for all of us. So please be patient with me as I navigate through this. So if you are not in beginning debate, group B, do not watch this video or you're just going to get a whole bunch of repeat information. Okay? So, I am going...
Okay, so this is going to be a practice resolution that we're going to dissect. Now, when you are writing down resolutions to pull apart and to really figure out what it's asking you, you are going to write it kind of in big letters like this. And then you want to skip a line when you are going on to the next line because you're going to have to write above this. Okay. So once you have, if you need to give yourself more time to write this, just go ahead and pause the video. But before you move on, make sure that you have this completely written. All right. So first what we're going to do is we are going to start by dissecting the different, well, not really dissecting, but what we're going to do is we're going to separate out the different parts, okay? So the separating out is kind of difficult when you first start, but as you get going, it gets easier for which parts you should and should not dissect from each other. So the first one is going to be, we're going to put a big line after resolved because we need to figure out what the term resolved means. Next, we're going to put a thick line after civil disobedience. Then after that, we're going to put a thick line after A and after democracy. And then you're going to put a thick line in between is and morally. And then in between morally and justified. Okay? So the entire resolution is saying, resolved, civil disobedience in a democracy is morally justified. Now, we've separated into its parts. Now I've got to figure out what each of those parts mean. So usually I look this up on my phone, but I am currently recording on my phone. So we are going to, I'm going to put my computer screen underneath the camera right here. Okay, so first off, before we start really looking at definitions, we actually need to figure out what needs to be a legal definition and what can be just a normal definition. So the ones that we really want to look at is the things that is the definitions that are going to be if it would be used in court, essentially. So resolved means something differently in the legal world than it does in just like in the Webster's dictionary, as does civil disobedience. And then we're also going to look up the legal term for democracy. Morally and justified will be about the same thing in terms of legal definition versus like Merriam-Webster's definition. If you ever are unsure about to look at a legal definition versus not look at a legal definition, just look both of them up. Whichever one works the best for you is what you should use, except for resolved. Resolved always needs to be the legal definition, okay? So I'm going to put this right here. It's on something. There we go. Okay. So we're going to look up resolved legal definition. And it says right here that the legal definition is to deal with successfully, clear up a dispute, to declare or decide by formal resolution and vote. We're actually going to just use the first definition, so to deal with successfully. So we're just going to write this right here in a different colored pen. That's not successfully. Oh, that is correct. Okay. So to deal with successfully, which means that this is going to happen. If this is the resolution, this is what happens. Okay? Next, we are going to look up the legal definition for civil disobedience. And I spelled disobedience wrong, but that's okay. So civil disobedience, according to the legal definition, is a refusal to obey governmental demands or commands, especially as a nonviolent and usually collective means of forcing concessions from the government, okay? So we're gonna simplify that and put that in like easier terms a little bit. And so we are going to say refusal to obey the government using nonviolent and collective means. And what we mean by collective is we'll do like a little arrow. Collective means as a whole group. So it'll be whole group. So a collective, for instance, could be the NAACP, right? They work as a whole group to help the advancement for people of color in the United States, okay? So that's a collective. So a collective is a group that is representing the entirety of that population, okay? Next, we don't really have to worry about INA because you guys know what NA means, all right? But we are going to look up the term democracy. I'm going to look up the legal definition for that. So the legal definition for democracy is a government by the people, especially rule of the majority. It can be a government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free elections. So we're going to kind of like combine all of that. You can't even see it because it's so large of a definition. So it's kind of all of that. So I'm going to kind of combine all of that stuff. And so we are going to say a government where, can you see my whole thing? Nope. Where the people choose who they elect in free elections. So the United States of America is a democracy because even though not everybody gets to vote for who the exact president is, for instance, if you voted for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election, you technically didn't get to pick the president, but you do have a choice in voting and then the majority wins, okay? So that's what a democracy is. We don't need to really look up is. Just know that is a different form of be, which means that, so is going to be anyone / everyone in this case. All right, next we're going to look up the definition for morally. So morally means with reference to the principles of right and wrong behavior, okay? So we're going to write that, and we kind of lost a little bit of room, so I'm just going to write it underneath. With reference to right versus wrong behavior. Okay? And then the last word that we need to look up is justified. Oops. The definition for justified is saying having done for or marked by a good or legitimate reason. Okay? So we're just going to write good / legitimate reason. Okay? So basically, now that we have broken down all of its parts, we know that the resolution means that it has happened, okay? And it's to deal with successfully. So we're just going to write a little thing that says, it has happened. Okay? Civil disobedience in a democracy is morally justified. And what that means is that it is happening that the refusal to obey the government using nonviolent and collective means in a government where people choose who they elect in free elections is, meaning anyone and everyone, is morally justified, which means the reference to right or wrong behavior for a good or legitimate reason. Which basically all this means is it is okay to protest the government. Okay? So, affirmative side is saying it is okay to protest the government. The negative side, because they're going against this, is saying it is not okay to protest the government. Okay. I guess we should actually, you know what, back up just a little bit. We should add a little bit more. It is okay to protest the government when the government is a democracy and acting unfairly. Okay? So we'll also add that to this one. Okay? So that's the breakdown of that topic.